Rita Docherty, and she's going to talk about a spiritual perspective on sustaining good mental health. She is currently the Vice Chair of Interfaith Scotland and served for many years on the board of Scottish Interfaith Council, now known as Interfaith Scotland. She's a lecturer in counselling at the Borders College, where she works in mental health and well-being, supporting students. Rita has worked in community education for over 30 years, involved in youth work, community development, and latterly delivering adult and family learning, during which time she trained as a counsellor. She's currently employed by the NHS as one of the 3 spiritual care chaplains at Borders General Hospital, mainly visiting local hospitals across the borders. She has volunteered for the past 15 years, offering child and adult bereavement support at the Borders General Hospital, Macmillan Centre, and is a member of the Baha'i Faith.
Hello, everyone. And as Ravinder says, I'm a member of the Baha'i Faith. So my personal perspective on spirituality mainly stems from that source. But I have also for many years had, as Ravinder mentioned, had involvement in Interfaith, and therefore I've had the privilege to encounter other perspectives on spirituality, which have led to a recognition of the commonalities within our faith and belief. Spiritual perspectives inform my work, both in terms of my view of the world and my view of humanity and my view of others around me. Ravinder mentioned the work that I do, and in all of that work, it's essential to have a view of people and a value of people that enables a connection between myself and others. And I'll mention a bit more about that later. It has to be said from the start that where there is severe mental ill health, expert psychological and physiological and medical advice must be sought. And I'm not a medical person, and I always emphasize that, especially in the hospitals, where people tend to think that at this moment in time they think anyone they see is a doctor or a nurse or whatever. But it's very important that to understand that mental ill health that is severe is not going to be helped only by spiritual approaches. However, far from excluding spiritual support, it has been evidence that both can work in harmony, and that's what is really important. Where patients, for example, have a belief or a spiritual leaning, then in working with them on that and acknowledging that and valuing that can greatly support them in a hospital setting. And also in when a person comes for help and because their mental health is low, then again they're acknowledging any spiritual or religious belief that they have is vitally important as well. So in the short time that we have, I'd like to give you an overview of what I see as important spiritual factors for maintaining and sustaining good mental health for yourself and for the care of others. So I hope you'll bear with me as I don't have a beautiful PowerPoint that as Suna had. And you know, Suna, I have to say that infographic with the brain waves on it, you know, I looked at that and I thought, you know what? Sometimes my brain is all of those at the one time. All of those squiggles just seem to react with me. I recognize that brain. But anyway, so in the short time that we have, this overview that I want to give you is what I see are the spiritual factors for maintaining and sustaining good mental health. we all have our own spiritual practices, but the spiritual values of care, compassion, and love are universal. They are universal. So at the heart of our connection with others, those are the things that that are universal, regardless of faith or none. So the following is assuming that we're supporting a person of faith. So I've just taken it from that sort of perspective, but the principles are the same and can be adapted for everyone. So your own self-awareness and loving kindness is effective in itself, very effective. When someone encounters loving kindness in a person, they feel warmth, they feel peace, they feel valued, and that's a key basis as well for our connection with others. So when people identify with low mental health, it can be the result of outer turmoils in life, relationships, finances, studies, illness, bereavement, etc. And these in turn can create inner turmoils such as stress and anxiety, hypersensitivity, loss of faith, trust, belief, and even distress and fear. Recognizing a spiritual dimension in all human beings gives us a strong foundation for a spiritual approach. Believing that all human beings have an innate nobility and that the soul is like a light within us that can be dimmed but not destroyed by life's tests and struggles, enables me to put into practice an unconditional positive regard for each person I work with. And that's very, very crucial. I teach students about counselling, and unconditional positive regard is a core condition of person-centred counselling. So now you'll be very aware of that. But it's also a life skill. It is something that we can make use of with whoever we are, with whether it's family, friends, but it's a life skill that we can all put into practice. And believing in that innate nobility of an individual is absolutely crucial, because it helps us to see beyond the outer struggles that a person has. So also, when we value all as being worth of, when we value every person as being worth. If we see a person as having a worth, having a right to be here in this world, then we have a vision that helps us see beyond the exterior issues, as I mentioned. And when a person feels low in mental health, they may experience a sense of low self-worth. They may experience loss of meaning, purpose, and hope, and find themselves struggling to cope with everyday life. As has been mentioned already, there have been scientific studies on spirituality and mental health, and which have shown a positive and effect. And what follows are some of the spiritual factors that some of these studies have identified. And I've just chosen a few because of the time factor, but first of all, there's the aspect of transcendence, in the sense of communing, connecting, or collaborating with something out with and beyond the human experience. This can be seen as a belief in God, a creator, a life force, a universal energy, spirit. We have different names for this. And But what it does is it relocates the individual focus from self and enables a more meaningful and less stressful view of the event or the feelings that they have. And a quotation in particular that from a Baha'i prayer that I love and use often is when I'm praying in communion with God, I lay all my affairs in thy hands, and thou art more friend to me than I am to myself. And those two lines from that prayer have given me great strength in times of stress, to know that I can hand over, but I also must accept the response that I get. And you don't always get the response that you want, as we know, but it's something that gives me great strength. And then, so that's about transcendence. There's also prayer and meditation, and John Swinton talked about that. But the use of prayer can be a source of comfort and hope. So praying for yourself, praying for others, praying for strength to overcome and get through tests and difficulties and illness, praying for love and healing and signs of a way forward. These can give us great comfort and hope. Meditation is known, as John Swinton and Suna mentioned, to calm and de-stress, and can bring a deepening of understanding and inner strength and knowledge. And people who meditate regularly will, I'm sure, agree with that. There's also the aspect of readings and resources, your holy word from your faith, guidance and spiritual practices can all inspire, guide, and soothe a troubled soul, and promote the development of inner love and compassion for others. So utilizing our, sometimes it's about rituals or other spiritual practices, and sometimes it's about just reading something that soothes your soul and inspires. And also, of course, there are clergy and spiritual teachers and advisors who are a source of solace and support as well. So we had transcendence, prayer and meditation, readings and resources, community. John Swinton mentioned community as well. As he said, I mean, someone with mental health issues may not feel like going into a community or being part of something. They may not even feel anything, at the time of their troubles. But a community can pray for someone, but also they can be encouraged to and reminded that their community is there and that they belong to something. They belong to that community. So a sense of belonging and identity can be, they can take that from that, but also support and care from the community as well. The other thing is sacred spaces and the environment. Sometimes that's just about a place to be still and just to be. Buildings such as temples, gurdwara, churches, mosques, synagogues can inspire and create awe and peace in heart and mind, as can nature and the arts and music. You can help create a sacred space also through spiritual conversations. Sometimes in the moment of having a conversation about spiritual principles and practices can create that sense of sacred space that can help. And sometimes it's good to, even in your home, to create a sacred space where you can go and just be and relax and reflect and ponder and meditate and pray. So sometimes people have done that. Many people have done that. So how can we help to sustain good mental health from a spiritual perspective? Well, from that place of valuing the worth of every human being, then find out what in your friend's life has given them meaning, purpose, and hope. If a friend comes to you with something that with a sense or feeling of low mental health, then this is what you can first of all do. What has meaning to them? What is sacred to them? Because it's about them. It's not about you, and it's about listening. So listen with it in a sincere and non-judgmental way, showing empathy and a genuine respect and love. A person will feel so valued from that. But you can also encourage prayer, meditate, encourage them to reflect on spiritual principles and themes. This can create feelings and emotions of love and hope and compassion, forgiveness and confirmation. Pray with them if appropriate, and to trust in God and our God, creator, spirit, whatever term they use, a greater source than their own being. To search for joy is important. Joy in creation, family, friends, nature, and the arts, as mentioned previously. It's been evidenced, and all these scientific projects that have been done in the past have shown that that when we look for the positive in something, there are practices you can use, like at the end of the day, looking for 3 positive things that happen to you in that day. They can be as minuscule as they can be as great, and those the practice of doing that every day actually it affects your brain and changes you into changes your, it can train your brain into automatically looking for the positives in life. And also, as John Swinton mentioned, joining with community activities, but also service to others. Service to others can totally detach you from your everyday problems and issues, and service is a vital factor in developing good mental health. And then coming to the end, you can pray for that person. There's beneficial effect in praying for someone. It has a beneficial effect on you and the person you're praying for. But it's also been evidenced that intercessional prayer on behalf of another has an impact. And that is so, that has been evidenced, although John Swinton thought that was a bit tenuous there. So, but I have, I had a friend who was at the end of her life at quite a young age, and she said to me that she felt the prayers of others, that she felt the prayers of others were carrying her and on her journey to the next world. And that was evidence enough for me at the time, though not scientific, but there we go. So finally, I think something that we can't forget is that certainly for people of faith is that there is always the possibility of divine intervention. And when you do hand over to God your thoughts and your feelings, it gives you a sense of peace. It gives you a sense of peace. And just watch and wait. Watch for the signs and wait for to see what happens when you hand over to God. Okay, so I just want to finish with a little quotation, and it's just a little meme, but it says, The troubles of this world pass, and what we have left is what we've made of our soul. So thank you.